Revealing the Truth of Slavery, the Testimony of Solomon Northup. Hello, everyone. Today, we will explore a first-hand account of one of the darkest chapters in American history through the eyes of Solomon Northup, a free man who was kidnapped and sold into slavery. We will witness the brutal reality of the 19th century slave market and understand how human beings were systematically treated as property. Solomon Northup's story is unique. Born a free man in New York in 1808, he was drugged, kidnapped, and sold into slavery in Washington, D.C. In 1841, for 12 long years, he endured the horrors of bondage on plantations in Louisiana before finally being rescued in 1853. He immediately wrote and published his memoir, 12 Years a Slave, to expose the truth of the slave system. His perspective is invaluable because he had lived both as a free man and as a slave. He knew the light of freedom, which made the darkness of slavery even more unbearable and his testimony even more powerful. Northup's narrative shows us that dehumanization was not accidental. It was a deliberate and systematic process. Slave traders used specific language to strip people of their humanity, calling enslaved individuals animals and property instead of recognizing them as fellow human beings. They subjected them to humiliating physical inspections, to feeling their muscles, checking their teeth, just like a jockey would examine a horse before a race. And to further turn them into marketable goods, they enforced control through forced training, making people dance, look smart, and suppress any sign of defiance, all to please potential buyers. Every step was carefully designed to erase their identity, their dignity, and their humanity, reducing them to mere commodities for sale. Yet, this cruel system could not destroy the essence of what it means to be human. The most heart-wrenching example in Northup's account is the forced separation of Eliza, an enslaved woman, from her young son, Randall. Eliza's despair is so palpable it leaps off the page. Northup describes her crying aloud and wringing her hands, begging and even promising to be the most faithful slave that ever lived, if only they would let her stay with her son. But the slave trader's freeman responds with no compassion at all Loney's savage threats. He sneers that he won't tolerate her sniveling and warns that he would flog her if she didn't stop. In the middle of this unspeakable cruelty, the innocent voice of young Randall cuts through. "Don't cry, Mama. I will be a good boy." That small, brave sentence, full of love and innocence, stands as the most powerful condemnation of the entire slave system. It reminds us that, no matter how hard oppressors try to dehumanize people, love, hope, and humanity can never be fully erased. So, why does Solomon Northup's story matter to us today? There are 3 key reasons. 1. It is irrefutable, first-hand evidence. Unlike second-hand accounts or historical records that might be watered down, Northup's words come from someone who lived the horror of the domestic slave trade. He saw it, felt it, and survived it. And his testimony exposes its brutality in a way no textbook ever could. 2. It shows the power of personal narrative to drive social change. After publishing 12 Years a Slave, his book became a cornerstone of the abolitionist movement. It didn't just tell a story, it made people care, it made people angry, and it pushed them to fight for the end of slavery. 3. Most importantly, it's a timeless warning. It teaches us to be vigilant against dehumanizing language and systemic injustice, because when we start calling people less than human, when systems are built to oppress, the same kind of horror can happen again. Northup's account isn't just a history lesson about the past. It's a mirror that reflects the mistakes we must never repeat and a guide to building a more just future. We remember his story not to dwell on darkness, but to honor his courage and to commit ourselves to ensuring that no one is ever treated as property again.